Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today we will be speaking with the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education and talking about identifying the qualities of an excellent instructor. Today's hosts are Lena Gupta, NCB-TMB's board chair, and me, Donna Sarvello. Hi, Lena. How are you today?
I'm great, Donna. How are things there in Chicago?
Warm and beautiful for the first time. It's wonderful.
That's wonderful. Wonderful to hear.
Excellent. With us, our guest for today is the president of the Alliance, Pete Whitridge. Hi, Pete. How are you?
Hi, Donna. Hi, Lena. Thanks so much for having me again today.
Hi,
It's
Pete.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you for coming back.
Yes.
Pete, can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started so the audience knows about you?
Yes. I am a licensed massage therapist in Florida. I'm also a continuing education provider, and I'm the president of the Alliance for Massage Therapy Education. I have been on the board of massage in Florida. I have been involved with CompTIA reaccreditation site visits, and I am an NCB-TMB approved provider.
Excellent.
So in your teaching and practice, Pete, what kind of modality do you teach and practice?
Yes. Well, so Lena, my specialty is myofascial therapy. I'm a myofascial pain specialist, and I teach neuromuscular therapy at the Florida School of Massage and have been doing that almost 23 years now.
And how long have you been the president of the Alliance?
I have been the president of the Alliance since 2010, and I have had the honor of being voted the president by our executive board and our board each year that we've been in business. But I'm
That's
hoping
really
one day.
fantastic.
I'm hoping one day to not be the president.
That's a sort of reverse goal. But I think looking at your background, you have so much experience and so much wealth of knowledge to feed into the Alliance. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yes, yes. Well, and I will always participate. It's such a great honor to be part of such a great group.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what's next?
Pete, can you tell us a little bit about the mission of the Alliance?
Yeah. The mission of the Alliance is really as an advocate and resource for teachers, massage boards, and industry stakeholders like the NCB-TMB. So our goal with continuing education providers, with teachers, and with schools is to gather information from them. Many people are members, and they talk to us about their concerns. So I see our role really as an advocacy role and a resource role.
Excellent. And then, how and why was the Alliance created?
Well, in the industry, we always worked at trying to call ourselves a profession, and many times when you look around in other professions, there's something called the College of Nurses or the College of Physicians, and there was never a College of massage therapy, and so we consider ourselves the College of Massage Educators, and we started in 2009. We have a variety of different projects that we started and were working with at that time, like the BOK, the Body Massage Therapy Body of Knowledge, and also we really wanted to encourage the associations that were focused on massage therapists and wondering about those massage therapists, why they were leaving. We felt like the biggest issue was that there were not high-quality teachers in the classroom, so students were having poor longevity.
Okay. All right. Well, are you both ready to get started? But before we get started, I wanted to give the URL for the core competencies document. If people can't type this into their URL quickly enough, you can go to www.afmte.org and you'll see the education area and you'll be able to find this document there too. So,
Great. So one of the great pieces here, Lena and Donna, is that I get this opportunity to kind of share a little bit about what this document is. And core competencies are complex. And so, Lena, I know that I'd like to kind of have a conversation with you about this instead of just looking at individual slides. So maybe you have some observations from some of the things you've learned so far, and then maybe I can
Mm-hmm.
address some of those.
Yeah. Well, I think give us a little bit of background how you came to this the document on the core competencies.
Sure, sure. So one of the things, like I said, was that we as a group, 6 or 8 of us who are longtime massage educators, Iris Berman, Rick Rosen, Sue Bibick, Stan Dawson, we really had looked around the profession and saw that the different professional organizations were saying that people were leaving the profession. And we really thought that that had something to do with the quality of education. So we did a survey, and some of the findings in that survey were that when people answered the question, how many hours of teacher training did you have before you were in the classroom, the general answer was less than 10 hours, and 85% of people said that they had less than 25 hours of professional adult education training. And so
Mm-hmm.
we saw that as an issue. It's
Mm.
wonderful to be a content expert, but being a teacher is a different thing.
Okay. And so I know that in the document that you have developed with your committee and numerous volunteers, it basically has a number of both categories as well as standards. So let's go into that a little bit.
Okay. So Lena, this is an assessment tool. We've created this so that it's accessible to everyone. It's an open source document, so it can be downloaded from the website. What it has in there are some tools and some text to help people identify areas where they may be very high skilled in, and then also areas that they may have some gaps in their learning. So we divided the competencies into 4 general categories, and then within those 4 categories we created a full 10 standards. We actually
Okay.
we actually use this a resource from the National Association of Teachers. So we're
Mm-hmm.
not trying to reinvent the wheel here about education. We're really trying to take some information that's already out there and apply it to massage therapy.
Okay, so let's look at an overview of the 4 categories.
Yes. Yeah. So
So learner and learning. Now, is this one all about the student, it sounds like?
yes, it's about the student and how they come in from where they're living and their environment and their background. So this takes into account a lot of the psychosocial skills, the communication skills. Many times when we're thinking in terms of uh, uh, adult education, this is the area where people have their gaps.
Mm-hmm. And then in the content, I'm thinking that's the curriculum itself.
Exactly. Well, not just curriculum for massage school, but also the skills and specialty for your expertise. So you would
Okay,
be
but
a
we can.
content expert in sciences.
Okay, okay. So subject matter expertise as well as the curriculum itself.
Exactly.
All right. And instructional practice, that sounds fairly self-explanatory. Is that where um, the experience that the instructor has in the classroom?
Yes, it's really focused a lot on what's happening actually in the classroom. And this is the place where people who have been teachers really are able to excel in these standards. So planning for classes, strategies for delivery and presentation of the material. And then, of course, how do we then observe, give feedback, and do assessments? So that instructional practice is a really big place.
And professional responsibility, can you give us a synopsis of that category?
Yeah, so in this area, this is the progression of teaching. You learn, you're a content expert, you have developed your skills, and then as a professional learner, lifelong learner, we would also encourage people to do professional development, to have a strong ethical background and professional background, and then also working in collaboration with the school, the administration, even out into other fields. Teaching about massage therapy to doctors and integrative health would be a great opportunity for someone.
Okay. And then I know within these 4 categories, you then have integrated 10 standards. And perhaps you can give us an overview of the concept of the standards and how this piece evolves. Because the more I'm learning about this, Pete, I'm realizing that it's a very complex document, probably one that discussing for half an hour on a webinar doesn't really do justice to the volume of work and the years of development that you've been through, as well as the volunteer hours. But can you give us a bit of an orientation on the 10 standards under these 4 categories?
Sure. And the slide that's up on the screen gives us 3 standards in the first category: learner development and well-being. And so these are pieces of background where people who are coming to us at massage school may or may not have a solid education background, strong reading skills. Sometimes people are coming in as a second career. So part of adult education is to be able to identify and help students learn about their learning styles, about their strengths and weaknesses and gaps in how they learn, and of course even things like study strategies. So if you are seeing the screen here, each content area has a couple of standards, and then those standards would actually be broken down into very specific knowledge levels and skill levels and even ability levels. So it is a very complex document, Lena, and it's something that it takes a couple of times just to even sit down and orient yourself. There is a glossary. This is just from the table of contents, so you can see that we're trying to be as specific as possible so that if someone wants to become a teacher, they can find areas of study, mentoring, and then also learning modules.
Let's go to the next slide. You mentioned the knowledge and skills, and I see you have another category or subcategory, attitude. So as I understand it, Pete, there are the 4 categories. Within the 4 categories, there are integrated 10 standards, and then within each standard, there's a knowledge, skill, and attitude section. Is that, is that how it is?
Absolutely correct.
I mean,
absolutely
am I understanding it correctly is probably what my question is.
Yes, absolutely. So 4 content, 10 standards, and then each standard is divided into a knowledge base, a skill base, and then some attitude standards as well. And so one particular standard could have 15 to 25 different areas for content learning and knowledge or skill assessment. Absolutely. And I think that one of the great pieces that happens for people who want to become teachers is that they also see that their own learning process can progress from learning and understanding or knowledge to actually applying that knowledge.
So what I find very interesting here, I think as an educator, we can understand the meaning of knowledge and the meaning of skill. In this third bullet, you talk about attitude, and then perhaps you can talk about how do we really measure attitude, and how does that relate in terms of this project?
Yes, I think this is a really wonderful question, and I was actually on one of our meetings with the Teacher Training Curriculum Development Committee, and we had a wonderfully lively conversation about this. How do you identify the internal state of someone, or how do you identify their biases or prejudice? And so we are actually developing some interview questions to put teachers through some real practice of teaching, standing in front of the classroom, and then also some videotaped presentations so that we can gauge their perceptions of what they're seeing in the classroom. A perfect example of that is I have a young man in school right now who's very, very rambunctious. He's a very smart man, and he is very disruptive. And if I had the attitude that this person doesn't know how to learn or is disruptive, I might not be able to channel his energy to actually help him learn. So that would be a good representation of attitude.
That's a great example, and you took it from the instructor point of view. Is there, is embraced in this whole system and document, is there a piece that relates to the attitude of the student towards their studies or towards the instructor or program?
Well, this is really focused on teachers. One of the great things that is also dovetailed with this, and we're going to talk about this a little later, is that we also have the ELAP project that has come out. And Ann Williams and the many people who are on that committee have really identified what they feel like might be the best set of qualities for someone who might have good aptitude to become a massage therapist. So within this document, we're not so much focusing on student performance, but we're thinking about teacher performance.
Okay, I really appreciate you clarifying that, because it's quite a lot to digest all at the same time, even though we're going through this for the second time. And then I know that you talked about the levels, and these would be the levels within the knowledge, skills, and attitude section.
Exactly. So we see that there are many thousands of teachers out in the profession already, and we would consider that many of them have skills and knowledge and attitudes that are very incredibly exemplary. And there are levels of teachers who are longtime teachers that still are only at a level 1 progression because of their learning or because of their professional development or because of just the environment that they're in. You know, some people are not lifelong learners. And so we wanted to identify people who were more advanced teachers, very much in the school world, K through 12 or university level. We end up having a progression of teaching where you become a master teacher and you become a teacher trainer and trainer of teachers. And so we wanted to have a mechanism where we could help people identify, yes, indeed, I'm meeting these things at level 1, and as part of my professional development, I would like to become a level 2 teacher and maybe get involved with actual professional instructor training the trainers.
Yeah, and then I know you've gone on to sort of break this down further in terms of each of the categories and each of the standards, which you had on that sort of overview slide, and then you have a few slides here with the same pieces.
Yes, and we can move through those, I think.
I think where I'd like to go, if we can move through those, and maybe you can tell us more about we've got a summary. We can go through the next few slides. We've got a summary of the core competencies, but then you have a section on the learner development and a sort of deeper categorization of these standards. So Donna, maybe we could move along through the 4 categories and the summary onto the piece where Pete talks about an example of Standard 1 and learner development, which is in the 20th slide.
Perfect. So the previous slides that we just ran through are just just another summary of what we've just talked about, and then there is one that says core competencies have. That's a wonderful summary. And on this example, I want to share with you, Lena, how the numbering looks. I think that's a thing that helps people see how the document fits together. So I have 3 different statements here, and they're numbered slightly differently, right? 1.1.1. So that would give me an idea that I am at that first level, the knowledge level. If it's numbered standard 1.2, that would take me into the next area of content, which would be a skill level. And then the third one, 1.3.1, takes me into that attitude level. So we have tried to conform our writing and our standards so that they reflect knowledge in a knowledge statement and skills in a skills statement and attitudes in an attitude statement. And all of these happen to be level 1 areas. And for me, I think it's very helpful for someone to read the second one. It says 1.2.1. Teachers know how to use instructional strategies that promote student learning. So you can see that this is a skill because we're talking about using the skill. You can know about it in theory, but to actually apply it in the classroom is a very different thing.
Absolutely, and I think the comprehensiveness of this document and the project will really, for those of us who've been teaching many years, we can, if we haven't had formal teacher training, we tend to evolve over the decades and in a bit of a trial and error way of what works and what doesn't work based on the feedback that we get. What I really like about this project is it's very, very structured in that it seems like it's easy to understand that there are the 4 basic categories. Not that they're basic, but I mean the 4 critical categories, you could even say, with the 10 standards, then the more in-depth knowledge, skills, and attitude part, and then the differentiation between a level 1 instructor and a level 2 instructor. And I think it gives some people something to work for towards either that they're teaching now or want to be a teacher. I know we had a lot of live questions that we need to address, and there are more coming in as we speak. And some of it is, you know, from people who are not teaching now but want to teach. Others are those who may well be level 1 teachers, and then this system gives a sort of a career progression, as I can see it, Pete. In terms of
I think you stated it very beautifully, Lena. We feel like part of becoming a profession is having a professional teacher corps, and that will then lead to better therapy in the clinic room and better longevity in the practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, you know, when we teach students, you know, their competencies when they graduate is a reflection of us as the educator. So if we are that much more competent as an educator, we should be contributing to producing, whether it's in core curriculum or continued education, a higher standard of therapists. So whichever way you look at it, it really does meet elevating the standards of our profession and providing a real pathway how to achieve that. And I know you've got some other examples in terms of the standards.
Yeah, and I think that we can quickly slide through these. This is the standard 3 knowledge level 1. it just gives you an idea of the complexity. There, you can see in that one there are 8 standards, and actually there's more than that, but I just picked the 8th standard so you could see an example of the numbering. And and
Mhm.
and so if you move on to the next one, Donna, 3.1.10, right? This is actually how to design. So you can see that a level 1 instructor thinks in terms of how to apply it. In this case, this is a level 2 teaching skill where not only do you have the ability to apply this in the classroom, but you're going to be innovative and create something new that may apply in another grouping of classrooms or at another school for you. So what I would say is many teachers are able to implement a curriculum that's handed to them, and they begin to use it and own it and get better and better at it. But the high level teachers actually are curriculum developers and create new classes and actually design materials and information to go into the classroom. So that's
Mm.
what these 2
And
slides are about.
yeah, and that makes me wonder. I know you had a lot of volunteers who came together to bring this document to life and this whole project. Were they all of different levels themselves and experience in terms of education, or what
Yes,
was
indeed.
the?
Yes, indeed. We have people like Gloria Lawrence, who has a PhD in educational instruction, to people like myself on the committee who are trained in skills training. My background was with the American Red Cross, and I became an instructor trainer with the American Red Cross and taught CPR and first aid and had been a variety of situations like that. So yes, the committee itself that made the standards, Becky Blessing, who is a chiropractor and very dedicated to the education in massage, um, has a background in systems organizations, so she was leading us very nicely in that. And then we had folks who are master teachers, people from other countries who were involved with this, and really use the feedback mechanism of our fellow teachers. We put this out for calls for comments and surveys a couple of different times.
Okay, that's really excellent to know. And one of the things you touched on was that about prior background. And I think in the massage therapy profession, many of us have had a former career or avenue that then brought us to massage therapy. So there's a huge wealth of knowledge that many instructors can already draw from, as you have, in terms of being able to reach these competencies and strive for the level 2. If we could
Yes.
just spend a few more moments on the standards, then I know that you have a conference coming up, which I have some questions for you as well. So,
Sure.
what else would you like to share about the standards?
So the standard that I see that's up on the screen is 3.2.1. And one of the things that I just want you to see is that we've developed 2 different levels here. And one of the things that happens in classrooms that is so frustrating for a lot of people is that teachers seem to think that they need to stand and lecture. And so these kinds of standards are really encouraging our core of teachers to create some kind of learning environments where students actually have the ability to work together cooperatively and productively. And so that sometimes is about small group work, sometimes that is about doing assignments and teamwork. Other times it's allowing students to teach the rest of the class. So sometimes we flip the classroom or things like that. And then a big piece of our philosophy is that the massage is an embodiment practice where we actually are touching people who are at a less powerful position in terms of they have less clothes on, they're under a sheet, and in the classroom, teachers have a very powerful role in modeling for students' safety and compassion and the ability to actually be kind to others. And so part of our standards really include this psychosocial and embodiment principles, so that it's not just a skill or a technique that you're coming into the clinic room, but rather an awareness and a lifestyle of health and wellness.
Yeah, and I think you really touched on something very important and something that colleges are coming to realize too, that the standing in front, having a PowerPoint and standing in front of the class is simply doing that and not necessarily imparting that knowledge and facilitating the learning from the student side. So I think that this takes us away from that, which is very essential. And you mentioned also, Pete, lifelong learning. In England, for example, in order to teach in a college, you have to go through a lifelong learning. It's actually a teacher training process, but it's all called lifelong learning. And though you can teach, you have to do this program alongside and be under supervision for a year in many of these areas that you've incorporated here before you can actually go on and continue in most educational institutions. It's something not very new, but it's certainly in more recent years. So I think there's a sort of global movement towards increasing the quality of education and the competencies of the instructor, not just in massage therapy, but in many different professions. But it's great that we're doing this within massage therapy. And then what are there some other pieces that you wanted to share with us about the standards?
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really so valuable here is that this is a self-assessment tool. And there are times where people have written to us and said, I don't really understand what you're saying here. And so I want to give you feedback. And what we do is we have a feedback mechanism that we can actually change and modify this document or make corrections. So this is really a living document. And so we have offered this to the acupuncture accreditation group, and we have offered this through a variety of different complementary and integrative medicine centers, so that they use that for their teachers, because they're also having trouble replacing their old line teachers because people are getting to the age of retirement and need to have a new set of teachers. And then I think that it's so helpful as a hiring and assessment tool for schools. There are all kinds of ways that schools measure. When I teach at the community college, they have informal and formal reviews, but there are a lot of small schools, owner-operated schools, that need support in this, of being able to help their teachers become better teachers. And student feedback is one thing, and teacher reflection is another thing, but also having something written out that almost looks like a checklist. Is this person able to do this? Would they need improvement in this? Is a very valuable tool.
Right. And that brings us to you have some exciting things to talk about in terms of, I know you've been planning, you've got your Educator of the Year. Tell us about that award. And then I also definitely want to discuss the conference that you're planning.
Yes, absolutely. So the Educator of the Year, we have a deadline coming up for that. We have 2 awards. One is for the continuing education provider, and one is for teacher in the classroom. These have been generously supported by BioFreeze Performance Health and Bon Vital. When this began, they were two separate companies, and as you know, Lena, in the industry, different companies have been purchased and sold, and so these two groups are together now. This is worth almost $2,000. It includes travel to our conference, lodging, stipend, $1,000 check given to you, and then products from each of the different groups, Bonvital, Performance Health, and also TheraBand. So it's a recognition of your ability to demonstrate to the committee, and I actually have no idea who's on the committee intentionally. It is a group of people who are outside and consultants for us with the Alliance, and they evaluate the applications and make a decision based on their thoughts about the person's qualifications. We don't expect to have this award every year to be given out if we don't feel like someone actually meets the qualifications. We want it to be a prestigious award, and we want it to be an award that actually has value to someone's resume.
Yeah. And then also, Pete, you've been planning a conference. Can you tell us where you are with those plans?
Yes, I am so excited, Lena. One of the things that we have been working at every year is we've been doing a conference, and it's very tiring to do a conference. So our planning committee reached out to CompTIA, the folks at CompTIA, and were wondering if we could actually do a co-sponsored conference. And instead of doing one in 2014, we thought we might try to do something in 2015 and call it an educational congress. So we invited all of the different groups, the NCBTMB, the Federation, the Foundation, and both of the massage organizations, ABMP and AMTA, to participate in one single location at one single time in the year. And we've set that date. It is July 21st through 26th in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the Commons, which is a hotel very close to the university. And so this will be a meeting where groups will have board meetings. The commissioners from CompTIA will be having a commission meeting. We're hoping that you folks at NCB will have a board meeting. We will also have educational opportunities for teachers, schools, CE providers, whether it's from the accreditation arm or whether it's from teaching principals in the classroom or information for administrators. And to me, I'm just so excited. It's one of the things we've always heard from people is there's 3 different events every year, and I have to make a decision, or I spend a lot of money to go to all 3. And many times this comes from the vendors more than anything, right? As a person who's a member of a variety of organizations, I just kind of budgeted in that I'm going to be traveling a bunch. But there's a lot of people who can't do that. And so one meeting, one location.
Right, one meeting, one location, and really looking forward to hear more about that. And yes, we certainly will also be having our own meeting at your venue. So we can get into the questions now. I'll hand over to Donna, and there were quite a number of questions that were previously submitted, but there have also been some live questions. So take it away, Donna.
Well, thank you, Lena, and that was excellent. That was full of excellent information. So we're going to move into the questions. Some of the questions were submitted the last time we held this webinar, so I want to make sure we get to those. So the first one is, how does this program work with or incorporate the ELAP program or the ELAP document?
Yeah, so this is a great question, and it really leads to all of the synergy in our field. The ELAP project came out of some work with the Coalition of National Massage Organizations, which all the groups are part of, and Ann Williams and Cynthia Ribeiro created this, and we are, and a task force, and a lot of work went on, but I'm just naming a few people. And we as a group at the Alliance are using the blueprint from the ELAP to reflect into the teacher training curriculum development. So the core competencies were developed before the ELAP, but we are using the ELAP when we develop the assessments, direct assessments, and indirect assessments for teachers in the classroom. The document itself actually lays out the desire to have what do they call the effective teachers in the classroom.
Okay, excellent. The next question comes in. I am currently teaching core curriculum. How will this affect me? And will I have to complete this program to keep my job?
And I absolutely love this question. This really addresses some of the fear that comes up when we talk to this about individual teachers, like I haven't necessarily been trained in all these adult education principles, but I've been learning and I've been paddling my boat pretty fast to catch up to this. What I would say is this is a voluntary program. We are wanting schools and teachers and CE providers to incorporate this into their planning for their teaching and in their programs. I do know that there are schools that are starting to use this within their documents, and so what I would say is you won't have to do this to keep your job, and what you will probably end up being offered is some professional development in areas that we have found some gaps. The core curriculum itself is changing due to the ELAP. We've seen some schools make announcements that they're upping their hours and changing their format, and so I would expect that schools, as they begin to see the value of having highly trained teachers in the classroom, will have requirements for people who are new teachers and offer training for people who are more mature teachers.
Excellent. And Pete, I just want to add to this that this is a voluntary program. People can take it if they want to. They don't have to. But as an instructor that was basically thrown into a curriculum and into a program to teach, I would have loved to have this. This can only strengthen the instructor's ability to capture the students in the classroom.
Absolutely, and we would love to see this become a certification type program. I think that's maybe even one of our questions that's going to come up. So I'm happy to talk about that. We would love to be able to create a program where people go through a specified curriculum, and we're not suggesting that it couldn't be from your community college or from any other source, just that it meets the qualifications, and then you would be eligible to take some kind of national certified teacher test or advanced teacher test. Absolutely.
Yes, and you know, it really meets the goals of advancing the profession in terms of, as you already shared in a way through the document, that all of these avenues enable a higher standard of education in the core curriculum, a higher standard of instructor, and advance the profession at large within society. And I think that's the aspect that is so exciting about the entire project.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's our next question?
Our next question is, will this credential become nationally recognized?
Yes, I also think it will also be recognized even in the Canadian system, since some of the folks who were involved with this have Canadian schools. Identifying teachers, teacher qualities, teacher skills, and then testing for those and assessing for those is really something that it cannot be done on a one state or two state basis. It really needs to be a national initiative, and so I think that this will be the standard for many states to use as well. Eventually, school approvals may include some kind of qualification requirement for someone to be a teacher. I happened to be at the American Massage Conference this last weekend, and I was there during Student Day. I was there on Saturday as well, but the Student Day, and students would come up to my booth and they'd say, "What are you all doing?" I say, "Oh, we're a teacher group." And they would look at me, and they're still in school, and they say, "I want to become a teacher." And so instead
That's
of saying,
fantastic.
"Oh, you don't qualify," I would say one of the best things that you can do to become a good teacher is to go out and learn to practice and learn the practice of massage first. And then have yourself some knowledge and skill and training in the methods of adult education, whether at your community college or through programs that the Alliance and the ABMP and the AMTA are doing.
Great.
Right.
Let's move on.
Okay. The next question is, how many members are there at the AFMTE now, or part of the AFMTE?
Yeah. So the Alliance is made up of teachers, CE providers, and school owners and directors. And we have approximately 325 members. That varies between teachers, CE providers, and school owners.
Okay.
We're small but growing.
And then the next person wanted to know, Pete, will you be teaching a class on core competencies at the AMTA Teachers Track?
So I had the honor of teaching this class. It was actually a 3-hour class. It was a very interactive class at the Illinois chapter of the AMTA. And I did not apply to the 2014 conference, AMTA conference, to do this. So the answer is no to this individual question about the AMTA National, but I have been making contact with individual chapters and wish to offer a 3 to 4 hour training for the different chapters around the country so that they can learn about this. We had a wonderful turnout, and we truly inspired some teachers who are needing the next level, needing their next challenge.
Fantastic. The next question comes in, are there any standards or requirements for teaching internationally?
Well, this is a pretty wide open question, so I'm going to say generally no. There are very few standards for teaching internationally. Lena, you actually may be able to add more to this question.
Well, I think, it is a very broad question, and it really depends what teaching we're speaking of, because if we're speaking of core curriculum within a college or a university environment that's accredited, then some colleges, and there's a movement in certain European countries for sure to have teachers of a certain standing. Like England, I can speak to mainly because that's where I'm from, and the process I now, in order to teach in a college or university, you have to have the lifelong teacher training, which I myself completed last year in person, and that was a movement in the exact same direction as the Alliance is moving forward with. So, but when we're talking about continued education, then generally it not only varies from country to country, but Pete, I think you hit the nail on the head that there's not a lot of oversight in terms of the core competencies that a continued education provider needs to have. And it's not just an international situation, it's even among all the professions, the allied health professions and the professions that we work closely with as well. And it kind of brings us right back to the fact that this work that you're doing, Pete, with the Alliance and your numerous volunteers is so much needed within the profession. So if anybody is really wanting to teach internationally, they need to really investigate, are there standards existing in their country of choice, and are there entities that can provide the kind of guidance that we could if somebody came from outside and said, oh, I want to teach in America, for example.
Yeah. Hey, Donna, are there any live questions?
There are, but do we want to finish? Do we want to go to the live questions, or do we want to finish the questions that came in?
Well, the
I have
couple that we
one.
have here, seem like we could switch back and forth
Okay.
Well,
because they
why don't
cover similar.
I can give you one of the live questions, Pete. So we have a person who's written in to say, I have been a continuing education provider for 10 years, teaching someone else's material. I enjoy it, feel effective, and get good reviews. I recently became the owner of an infant massage training program and now have 6 massage therapists training for me across the country. I want to know more about how to support them as trainers, as well as making sure I'm continuing my own development. What do you recommend as my next step?
Oh, what a great question, and what a great opportunity to help expand her business or this person's business. Um, there are a variety of resources out there. Some of them are actually free. I'm a big fan of Coursera courses, which are massively open courses, and those have wonderful learning modules for training as teachers. So that would be one place. I also think that the ABMP Associated Massage and Bodywork Professionals have created and dedicated a lot of their programs to helping teachers be very good teachers in the classroom. And then there are tremendous resources, modules at your local community college or university. The process of teaching is fairly universal. And so what we have to do then is apply it to massage therapy and the intimate relationship in the massage classroom. So those were 3 areas that I would begin to explore.
And as you mentioned Coursera, I think their web address is coursera.org, course, and then ra.org, in case anybody's interested in pursuing that more. So thank you for that, Pete. I think it was a great question with a great answer as well. And we have another live question, which is, I am wanting to get into teaching. Interesting so far, but I'm getting confused, jumping back and forth within the PowerPoint. So I think the question is really about what can a person who's interested in teaching do to sort of move forward.
Okay. Well, one of the most important things that people who want to teach massage can do is to be very good in practice. I usually tell my students that by about the 7th or 8th year of your practice, you're really going to be at that place to determine, do I really want to continue to do massage? Then part of what the person's asking is, where can they get this core competencies document? And they can pull that down from the massage AFMTE.org website. When you actually read through this document, there are areas of content expert, which is standard 2, that you might feel very good about, and you may have seen very good teachers and using technologies in the classroom, which is standard 3, and the place that you really would need your training and baseline would be in standards 1, where you are actually learning about the principles of adult education, where you are learning about learning styles, where you are learning about classroom dynamics and interprofessional education. It is daunting to become a teacher, and so one of the best ways that people learn to become a teacher is that they are teacher assistants at a massage program, and they the program that they teach in shouldn't just turn them into a teacher after being a TA for 1 or 2 terms, but rather to have some mechanism for them to progress through teaching a few classes, having peer review, getting assessments from the students, trying those classes again. There's nothing like experience to help you become a better teacher. So standing in front of the class, doing demonstration, giving students feedback, all of these things are a continuum. I just finished
Okay.
up, yeah.
That's a lot of good information. And Donna, I think we can perhaps take a couple more questions before we draw to a close.
Okay. The next question, does anyone see a possibility of a specialty certification through NCB in being an educator?
Wow. Well, there's a direct question for the NCB.
Well,
Lena, do you
I
want to
see,
take a shot at that?
yeah, I'd love to take that question. I see that in the advancement of the profession that we have to be open to all possibilities. One of our primary focus over the last 6 months has been to collaborate with the stakeholders who I met in December at the coalition meeting, and would like to collaborate with all of the key stakeholders as well as many other entities. And I think this is one area as the program develops that we can certainly pursue and discuss and see how we can optimize both advancing the knowledge, skills, and attitude aspects of the instructor with the level 1 and level 2, Pete, that you discussed. So there are always possibilities and opportunities. It's a great question, and we will see how that emerges as this project continues.
Yes, and I would add too, Lena, that I see in our future many specialty certifications, whether it's from Traeger practice or athletic massage or teaching. I know that the Society for Oncology Massage would love to have a specialty certification. So.
Yes, I think that is definitely the natural progression of a profession, and this is a profession that has sort of gone from the early infancy through some of the teenage struggles, and now we're evolving in so many different aspects that the next decade of the evolution will certainly bring in many of the core pieces that are common to other professions.
Yes.
Hey, can we take a one more live question, because it looks like it's about continuing education, and I don't think we've done any of those.
Sure.
So Pete, can you speak more about how this can be applied by non-core providing CE providers?
Absolutely, absolutely. So CE providers many times are single operator groups, and then sometimes there are companies that do teacher trainings. A good example of that would be Daybreak Geriatric, and my friend Sharon is using the core competencies when she is thinking about hiring someone to use as a blueprint or a checklist to see if the person has the skills that match up with what she would like to see in her classrooms. So if I were an individual CE provider and I had good skills and clinical background and was teaching out in the greater outer world there, one of the things that I would want to look at is, am I being successful in the classroom because of my knowledge and skill of the subject, and am I able to facilitate a classroom where people who are very experienced therapists are going away and advancing their knowledge, not just reconfirming something that they already know.
Excellent. Well, I think we're coming to a close, but we have 4 more questions, but I think that you've answered these questions, because the next one was about the international market and how can they get involved, who could they contact, and we've spoken about that. And then the next one was how to become a teacher or how to get the experience. So I think you've spoken about that. And then well, will having a bachelor's degree in applied science be something that is desirable in becoming a massage therapy instructor?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Donna. And what I would say to you is that some of my favorite teachers actually are coming from other careers and other backgrounds, because they're not just trained in massage. They're bringing in things about physiology or psychology or human development that help add to the classroom. And so I think a
Absolutely.
bachelor's degree in applied science would apply in not just an anatomy classroom, but in a clinical psychological dynamics of touch class, and of course in the massage class itself.
Excellent. And then our last question, which I think you can answer quickly, is where can we view the document to do self-assessment to see if we would qualify to be a teacher?
So that document, the core competencies for teachers, is located on the website afmte.org.
Excellent. Well, thank you to both of you. The webinar playback will be available tomorrow, 5/24/14, and you can go to www.ncbtmb.org/webinars to view this webinar. Of course, to connect with us, or first to connect with the core documencies, the website is on the screen. You can play this back and get the website. If you have questions about your specific situation, you can always email info@ncbtmb.org or Facebook us, Twitter us, or we're available on LinkedIn, and this will be played back on YouTube.